Welcome back to the Something in the Wilderness podcast. My name's Steve, and if you've tuned in before, you know that we typically choose one Andrew McMahon song to talk about. And many times, we bring along a guest to share their perspective. I usually wait for a full album to release before I talk about a newer song, but I'm pretty confident that this song won't become part of a major album or a larger project. It's just a standalone single as far as I know to promote the Out of Office tour, which wrapped up recently. This song was Andrew's second single of the summer of 2024, and only the second song ever to be credited with two of his bands as the artists. Today we have a guest who's new to the show, and I was glad when she suggested this song because I've been looking forward to talking about one of the latest releases. So I want to welcome Cindy to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me, Cindy. So you're a teacher, right?
Yes, I am. I am a middle school and high school orchestra teacher.
That popped out at me when I saw your video on Instagram, which we're definitely going to talk about, because we've had several teachers on the show. You might be the third, fourth, or fifth. It seems like a lot, though. And actually somebody, now that I just thought about it, somebody on my Dear Jack fundraising team who hasn't been a guest yet, she's also a teacher as well. So what is it about teachers and Andrew McMahon? Are all teachers Andrew McMahon fans, or?
I'm recruiting people. I don't know.
Great.
Yeah, interestingly, a colleague of mine from a former school helped me get connected more to Andrew's music, and I can talk about that later.
Well, I know very few Andrew fans in my local community, but one I know is also a teacher.
That's really
So,
cool.
yeah. And also why it jumped out at me, your video again, for a couple of reasons. The fact that it's great also, but my daughters are heavily involved in music. They do voice lessons. They're in my older daughter's in the marching band. We don't have an orchestra, unfortunately, at our school. I don't think we're big enough for that, but we have a marching band and a middle school band, and they're both in the choir. My daughter's in show choir, so we're a very, I wouldn't say musical family because, I'm not, but they are musically talented, and we love all the performing, so.
That's so cool.
So, Cindy, how did you become an Andrew McMahon fan?
Okay, so I had the basic Spotify app, the free version, for years, and I'm a runner, and I was training for a marathon, actually training for the Boston Marathon a couple of years ago in
Mm-hmm.
2022. And Spotify would just have the weekly, like, you would like this song. So I would listen to whatever that weekly spotlight, whatever they call it is.
Mm-hmm.
And High Dive came up, and I liked it. And I just added it to whatever playlist I had going, and I would listen to it, and it felt like it's a really great song to run to. I just would, especially getting into the chorus, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to go fast here. It just has enough of a driving rhythm, and I just liked the overall sound of it. And I didn't pay much attention to like who it was by for quite a while. That was the start.
Did you then finally see the artist name and say, I'm going to check out more by him? Or did the algorithm just start recommending more?
I think both.
Mm-hmm.
I think the algorithm recommended more, and I know I had Cecilia added. I liked that, and So Close, all wilderness music.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started going, oh, this is cool music. And then while I was running, I after like, I don't know, 20, 30 times of hearing the song, I finally started paying attention to the lyrics and
Mm-hmm.
went, wait, what is this actually about? And I was intrigued with the lyrics, and that every time I listened to it, a little something different jumped out.
Yeah.
And so then I started like looking them up online and on Spotify and adding more songs. But then a friend of mine, we used to be colleagues at a former school that I taught at in Colorado. Anyway, she like posted pictures of her at an Andrew McMahon concert in
Mm-hmm.
Colorado Springs. And I was like, wait, I barely heard of this musician, and a friend of mine has been to his concert. That's
Uh-huh.
cool. So I
Yeah.
messaged her about it and said, oh, that's really cool. I like his music. And she's like, oh, his performances are so great. Just he's so good at performing, and his voice is amazing. And I was intrigued. And then from there, that was like 2023, maybe. Then he
Oh,
started going
recently.
on tour. Yeah, very recent,
Oh,
very recent.
wow.
Yeah, 22 or 23, I forget. But then he started his tour, the tour before the New Friends tour. I don't know what that one was called.
Hello Gone Days with Dashboard Confessional.
It wasn't that one because it was with,
Okay, it was that short run in the spring, right? Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yep. It didn't have
And
a name. It was just them on tour. Yeah.
it was just a tour. And so,
Yeah.
like, we were in the process of moving. I was living in Kansas City at the time, and I saw that
Hmm.
he was going to perform in Kansas City after we moved. I was like, oh man. So we moved to Virginia, and I was looking at where's the closest place this tour is happening. I just wanted to go see him. I was like, this just sounds cool, and why not?
Yeah.
And it was Charleston, South Carolina, where my stepmom lives. And so it was in the summer, and as a teacher, I have the summers off. So I just planned a trip to go visit her, and I was like, "You want to go to this concert?" And she's like, "Sure."
Oh,
And so
nice.
yeah, and she'd never really heard his music before, and she just loves music, and was like, "Yeah, I'm up
Hmm.
for it." So we went down to Charleston and went to the show, and it was incredible. I just was enamored. I was like, he's so he connects with the audience. He sounds really good. Some
Hmm.
people don't sound good in concert when they sound
Right.
good, you know, in their recordings. I mean, he was just, and his energy, and he did synesthesia, so he brought out the big parachute.
Oh, the parachute. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was up. I got we got balcony seats up top because I
Hmm.
was like, well, I don't want to stand, and I know my stepmom doesn't want to stand, and we were
Right.
up there, and I was like, these people are standing the whole time, and then I saw why. I was like, oh, he goes out there, and he rode the La La Llama too,
Hmm.
and I just loved the whole thing. And from there, it's been like I've just been digging around, trying to learn as much about him as I can, and getting more and more into his music.
It's always fascinating to me when I talk to somebody who got into Andrew in the past decade, let's say, since the Wilderness, and I love that. I love hearing that he's still making new fans, as expected. I mean, he's putting out great music right now, as we're going to talk about today. And I've met a few people, a handful of people on the show that came in on the Wilderness, and so I always ask this question. Now, did you go back to Jack's Mannequin and something corporate, or did you just stay with like what you liked in the Wilderness?
I went back because my friend who introduced me a little bit to him said, if you like his music, you should check out his other bands.
Hmm.
And so I did, just slowly going through and learning more. Actually, the biggest way that I've gotten into his older music has been in his concerts.
Okay, yeah. He really mixes it up.
He mixes it up a lot. And like the first time I heard La 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 was at that first concert I attended.
So you had to go back and be like, what's that? You know, I got to
And I
go
was
hear
like,
that
what
one now.
is this song? And everyone's singing along. And I'm like, what is this? And he rode the llama and everything. And I'm like, this is cool. I like this song.
Yeah. Well, I can confirm that High Dive is a good running song because that was one of the many on our running mix here at home. We did a couch to 5K. We haven't gone past 5K, but we did couch 5K back at the beginning of the pandemic and worked our way up and just ran our most recent 5K last weekend, actually.
Woohoo!
But High Dive is on the mix, Fire Escape,
Mm-hmm.
probably more wilderness than than the other projects, I think, in my running mix, if I had to guess. Because they're a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more like boppy.
Yeah.
The reason I found out who you are, or I guess noticed you on the internet, for lack of a better phrase, is like you posted a video doing a cover song of what we're going to talk about today. You were on a violin, and I don't know my instruments too well, but I'm going to guess your friend was on a cello.
Yes.
Maybe that was in the notes. Maybe it was a giveaway. I don't know, but that's just from memory.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome. I loved it, and I was like, oh, that would be so cool to talk to her about that. And lo and behold, here we are. So, can you tell us about that? Like, what inspired you to record a cover song of "Happy," the song that we're talking about today?
When some people posted that they got the sheet music for Happy, like people
Hmm.
from Camp Wilderness, I first of all, I was like, I need that.
Hmm.
Second, I was like, I need to join Camp Wilderness
Hmm.
because they get cool stuff.
Yeah.
And then they released it as like anybody could have it. So I downloaded it. So okay, so I teach with another lady at we both teach at a high school, and then we each
Hmm.
have our own middle school. And so we
Oh,
teach
okay.
together, and we play in a symphony together, and we've done duets together. She's really good at arranging music, which is where you take a song and change things around or add effects or do things to it to make it sound good, and perform.
Hmm.
Because if we were to just perform Happy as it was written, it would be much plainer than what our video was. But I just knew, something about like, I listened to this song and I thought, I think we could do this because she did a really cool arrangement of We Don't Talk About Bruno
Mm-hmm.
that we played to help recruit kids to join orchestra. And like my new students all say, "Oh, we love that Bruno song, the way you played it." And she did some cool special effects, and it was some of the things that are in our Happy video. So I just kind of went, I think we could do this. So I approached her. I was like, "Hey, what do you think?" And she said, "Sure, I'll listen to it and I'll figure it out." So she listened to it and I gave her the music. And it's piano music, right?
Yeah.
But violins read the treble clef, the top line of the piano music, and the cello can read the bass clef line. But as it was, it would be very plain. So we sat down one day, we had lunch together and decided, okay, let's try this today. We rehearsed a couple times and
Mm-hmm.
we tried different things and we tried to mimic the song, like the effects of the songs. Like at the beginning, how it has that driving dum 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 dum
Yep.
dum dum. She plays that on the cello, and
Mm-hmm.
we thought, let's try it where she did it bowed, which is called arco. She
Mm-hmm.
tried it arco first, and then she tried pizzicato with the strum. I think we both were like, yeah, let's do pizzicato to start kind of smaller and make the song build. So from there, we just played around, and some of the effects were like pizzicato. She did chops. So once I started playing the melody, like the first
Mm-hmm.
verse, she did this like dum bum chop where she drops her bow onto the strings and it makes a chopping sound, but it's a percussive
Yeah.
sound. So it's supposed to mimic the drums a little bit.
Okay. That
Mm-hmm.
was really interesting how that came out. So it sounds like you guys put a lot of work into it, the arrangement and figuring out how this would work.
Yeah, we did. And it was fun because that was one effect. And then I would go up an octave. I went up the octave for verse two just to change it up and not make it all the same. And then, okay, I love this. When there's the line, a blow up doll names, I think he named her Sue.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar, I think it's Josh who plays that, does this cool little donna, donna. And she did that with her cello. Like she interrupted the melody and doo doo, doo doo. So if you go back and listen to that, check for that because she wanted to make sure to get that.
Oh, I definitely am going to go back and listen to it now because I'm sure I'm going to notice, and I'm sure anybody else listening would do the same. They're going to notice different things now after watching your video, after listening to the way you describe it.
Yeah. And then a couple other effects. I think it's like leading into one of the choruses where in the actual recording, in the background, it just sounds like wild. I don't know how to describe it.
During the chorus, you mean?
It's like right before the chorus. It's like in the
Okay.
bridge leading up to maybe the second chorus. But
Okay.
you'll see what she does. I just was just playing the melody, and she did all the cool effects. But she does this what we call ponticello. So she put her bow close to the bridge, and it has kind of a raspy sound. And she does a glissando, but slid her hand up and down to just make this cool jumbly effect to mimic what the song was doing, the actual recording. And that also matches what kind of matches or mimics what the recording does. And I just love that she did that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is I like how we tried to make the song build so that by the final chorus, it's like the biggest, the loudest. And then we fade out at the end by going back pizzicato
Mm-hmm.
to just
Like the
have it
beginning.
fade out like the beginning. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your violin, was it playing the vocal melody for the most part?
Yes.
I'll definitely go back and listen to it. And if you don't mind, I'll link that here in the show notes. That way anybody
Sure.
can go listen to it from this podcast. So,
Absolutely. And I want to point out a couple fun little details that some people may not have noticed.
uh-huh.
And okay, and we recorded this. We did like two or three takes. I mean, we were like, we don't have a lot of time. We're teachers. We don't have a lot of time,
I
right?
love
So
how I love how it was so casual. So like you guys are just talking and like talking about doing it in the beginning, and I think you even said I'm going to cut this out, and then you didn't because it's there.
yeah, yes. Okay, so here's what happened was we started to record and I just used my phone. And I
Hmm.
just had, we were just like, we don't need to make this fancy. Let's just do this.
Yeah.
So I had my phone up there and we start recording. And then one of my alarms goes off. And I have like 10 alarms that go off because we don't have bells at our schools anymore. So that's the bell.
Hmm.
But it was a day when we didn't have kids. It was a professional development day. So the stupid bell went off or alarm went off and it interrupted the recording. And
Oh, okay.
so it's like, okay, I got to turn off these silly things. And then I recorded again. This is the recording that you'll see. So we've got it up there and we're like trying to get arranged. And I was wearing an Andrew McMahon shirt. It's that
Yeah.
Andrew McMahon is a friend of mine.
Hmm.
And I wanted people to see it. So she's like, move over so we can see it. And I was like, cool. But I wanted my violin cases in the middle on purpose because I have some pins from when I went to the New Friends tour. I did the VIP, and I have some of his pins on my case. So I wanted them to be visible. And I don't know if people could see. If you look really closely, you'll see that I've got Andrew McMahon pins
All
on my.
right.
But that's why it's there. But if I were to do it again, I'd rearrange things. Anyway, so we're there and we're about to go. And then she says, this time, no alarms. And I just start cracking up because,
Okay. I didn't get that, but now I understand why.
yeah. And so that's the context is she just, was like, no alarms this time. And I'm like, oh, I just start losing it.
Hmm.
And then she's trying to go and I just can't. And then I finally pull it together and I'm like, okay, I gotta be happy. I've gotta be happy. And then she made a little comment about being happy in the public schools, which, I mean, we're both public school teachers. We love our kids and we love our school. I mean, our schools are great, but it's challenging being a teacher
Oh,
nowadays. So
absolutely.
that was all that was. And then we finally get to actually recording. And I thought it was kind of funny to show our banter. So I left it in.
You probably don't know this about me, but I can confirm that teaching is a challenging profession. I am a former teacher, and I'm a former school
Oh.
counselor, and I've since moved to a different career. So can confirm, very challenging career. I give you all the credit in the world, and it's not a job clearly everybody can do. So yeah, it's tough, but we appreciate what you're doing. So.
Well, thank you for what you've done and are doing.
So let's talk about this song then. I
Mm-hmm.
remember over the summer, I was on one of those Camp Wilderness live streams, and I don't know if you were on Camp Wilderness quite at this point yet.
And I was not.
Andrew played a piano-only version on one of those Q&As that he does with us. And
Mm.
he said, this is going to be the new song, I'm going to play it. And he played Happy. And that was the first way I ever heard it, was just him on a piano playing for a few of us in Camp Wilderness. I had heard, I think, a clip that they were using to promote it on Instagram, but I hadn't yet. That was the only way I heard the whole song. So it was interesting in the way that I heard that version first, and then I heard the fully produced full band version after that point. I think it was like a month after, a few weeks after anyway. So the song, of course, we're talking about today is Happy, and it's by Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness and Something Corporate. Interesting. We'll come back to that point. It was released as a standalone single on July 26th, 2024, about a month after the previous single. There was a music video released about a week later on August 1st of the year, which we'll definitely also talk about. So, Cindy, do you remember first hearing the song and what your reaction was to it? Like, so you were a big fan of songs like High Dive and Cecilia and a lot of other wilderness stuff. You were starting to get into Jack's Mannequin songs. How about this song? How did this one strike you?
I liked it from the beginning. I heard like you the short little clip when they were promoting it.
Hmm.
And the little bit I heard, I was like, this sounds fun. This sounds
Hmm.
fun. I like it. And then I think the first time I heard it fully might have been on the Facebook group, We Are the Pop Underground, that maybe someone
Hmm.
posted a video of it when they performed it live.
Yeah, because they did perform it live before it came out. I forgot about
Hmm.
that. Yep.
Yeah. And so then that was, I think the first time I heard it all the way, I loved it. And then of course when it actually came out, I had it saved. And as soon as it came out, I was like, yeah, I like this.
I remember first hearing that chorus on that live stream, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really like the way he sings that. I really like what he's singing. It felt very emotional right off the get
Mhm.
go. Even though it's called Happy. I
Mhm.
felt like that initial time it was kind of sad, but I think it's because he was playing it just on a piano, kind of slower than the produced version. So it was just an interesting dynamic. But let's talk about the production a little bit. So this song was produced by Luke Nicoli and Daniel Robopop Emilio and Andrew McMahon. And we've mentioned these guys on the show before because they co-wrote VHS with Andrew and another song on Tilt at the Wind No More. But prior to this summer's releases, as far as I know, they've only co-written songs with Andrew and never produced them before. I've got a quote from digitaljournal.com. I've never heard of this this online website before, but this is the quote I found. This is following some studio time with Something Corporate. He says, "It has been such a joy. I feel like we've all grown so much as people and musicians, and being back in the studio together was a really beautiful moment to add into this year of shows we've been playing." As a longtime Something Corporate fan, I did not expect ever to get new music called Something Corporate music. You know, like Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness, that made sense. That's where Andrew is in his life right now. But him and Josh have both stated that in the past that they would never record more Something Corporate. And so that was pretty surprising to me. I actually got the chance to interview Josh on the show almost exactly a year ago. And he said as much. He said, no, I don't see us ever recording any music as Something Corporate again. So it was very shocking to me, as you can imagine, as a longtime fan, like, wait a second, this band is now back. But yeah, so was that surprising to you to see the label Something Corporate on it, or did that not mean much to you?
Well, I was getting into Something Corporate, so it was a surprise because, like you said, he's been recording with the Wilderness. But then you know what though, at the same time it wasn't though, because they were doing their out of office tour,
Mm-hmm.
that when they were starting to show the teases of they're in the studio, I was like, okay, old friends getting back together. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like he's been hinting at stuff in this direction ever since they did the New Year's Eve show, or maybe even before then, like before I was a fan. But I feel like when the New Year's Eve show came out, I thought surely they're not going to do this show only those 2 nights. And sure
Right.
enough, they did a whole tour.
So actually, today we're recording on October 20th, this episode, and it was exactly 1 year ago today that I saw Something Corporate in Vegas, prior to the night before When We Were Young festival. So that was the
Wow.
first show I just posted that on Instagram today. It's been exactly 1 year since their first show back as a full band for a full performance. So yeah, today's an anniversary of sorts, I guess. But yeah, it was. We didn't know what was coming next. We knew they were doing the festival and that late night show that we went to in Vegas, and then I think right around that time we found out they were doing Anaheim for 2 nights on around New Year's, but we didn't know about Out of Office yet. So a lot has happened in this past year. Speaking of which, let's talk live history of the song. So the song made its live debut in Portland, Oregon, exactly a week before its release. And they've actually played it every single headlining show, non-festival headlining show since. So it's been like a regular setlist staple, as common as Fire Escape at a Wilderness show. He's not going to play it, right? But they didn't play it at Riot Fest or Austin City Limits, of course, because it's a shorter festival set. But they did play it for both late shows for those festivals. Again, every headlining show since July 19th. There are some YouTube videos out there for both times they played it that first weekend in Portland and Seattle, but I'm going to include the Seattle performance in the show notes because I just felt like that one came out a little bit better. That one's in the show notes if anybody wants to check out the second time they've played the song. I was able to go to 3 Out of Office tour shows back in September and see it performed live all 3 nights, which was really cool. And actually, I ended up liking the song even more, not surprisingly. Usually that's what happens with Andrew music. I like it, and then it like deepens for me when I get to see it live. And I had the chance, so I saw Andrew after the Cleveland show one of those nights. And I had the chance to tell him that, hey, and this was amazing, by the way. I told him, you actually played 4 songs of yours that I've never heard before live. So that's pretty impressive because I've seen him about 30 times, something like that. And he was like, Happy was one of them, right? And I was like, yeah, Happy, of course, Happy was one of them. So I was really, really pleased with that. Were you able to catch any of the Out of Office tour dates this year?
Yes, I was. I saw it twice. I
Oh,
went
very
to New
cool.
York City, Pier 17, which was so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, like, I think listening to your podcast and following in the Facebook group and seeing how people would go to multiple shows, it just occurred to me that I could go again. When
Mm-hmm.
could I go? And so I ended up being able to go to Atlanta. It worked out
Oh,
that I was
nice.
able to drive down and stay overnight and see it twice. So they didn't do Happy in New York because it wasn't released yet, but they did Death Grip.
Oh, right. Oh, they were playing Death Grip at the beginning. That's
They played
right.
Death Grip, which was awesome, and then they did Happy in Atlanta. So I'm excited I got to see both live.
Yeah, that's fun. I have not seen Death Grip live, and it made me wonder because I saw him back in June, the same weekend you did, but it was a festival set, four chord in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they didn't do a new song there. They didn't do Death Grip nor Happy. We didn't even know about Happy at the time. I don't know if I'll ever see Death Grip because I feel like it came and went so quick, and the Happy replaced it and became the set list staple. So, and I understand they're not going to play both brand new songs every show. Spoiler alert: I prefer Happy, so I'm good. But I like this song better in concert than I even expected to, and I loved the visuals. So when you saw it in Atlanta, you got to see the visuals, right?
Yes, love the visuals.
The sunflowers, and I got to admit I had to snap several pictures over the 3 nights. I remember like I think I already have this photo from last night. What am I doing? But like I just loved the way it looked with the spinning sunflower on his piano and on the background at the same time. So that was a lot of fun. It was a cool effect. So I'm not convinced this song's going to be like a long-term setlist staple. I don't think it's going to become like the Fire Escape or Cecilia of the Wilderness. But I think it's cool that they played it a lot on this tour, got everybody a chance, everybody who was able to get out to the shows anyway, a chance to hear it. So I assume because you're a teacher, you're probably not able to go on the cruise, right?
I am going on the cruise.
You are going on the
Okay,
cruise.
so
Oh my gosh.
yes, that was my first reaction when the cruise came out. I was like, I can't go. I can't take
I
this
never
week
would have been
off.
able to go when I was teaching or counseling.
So I saw it and I was like, oh, yeah, I can't go. And then I went, hold on, let me look at this. I could get away with taking just 3 days off and we get 3 personal days. And I looked and I was like, it's also a good time of year to go.
Hmm.
Interestingly, it's between concerts and it's not like a busy time as far as my schedule. So I looked into it and talked to my husband about it, and we are going and taking a vacation in the middle of school, which is unusual.
Unheard of, right? That's
Yes.
amazing. Oh, I love to hear that. Well, we'll see you there. My wife and I will be there as well. And I'm just so excited. So, as of today, we are just under 3 weeks out. I'm willing to bet we're going to see Happy performed there on the cruise.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good chance. Although, I don't know if they'll perform it as Andrew McMahon on the Wilderness or something corporate, but I'm assuming something corporate, right? Because those are the guys that were playing in the song. But
Yeah, that would make sense.
yeah, probably. But technically, it's by both bands. I think my understanding is they put Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness on the label as in Andrew from Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness because that's his current band. So just to kind of tie those two things together for the algorithm, which makes perfect sense.
Sure.
Well, that's really exciting. I'm glad to hear that you get to go, that you get some time off. You deserve it.
Thank you.
All right, so let's talk songwriting of this song. So that I mentioned earlier, the same two guys who produced it with Andrew also co-wrote it with him, Luke Nickley and Daniel Emilio, and they've now co-written 3 songs with Andrew: VHS, Smokin' Ribbons, and Now Happy. And Luke Nickley actually co-wrote Death Grip as well, so he's been in the mix for a little while now. Andrew's referred to him as a friend. I know Luke is like a young guy, and I've read this book about songwriting recently and how the professional songwriters do it. They talk about the importance of just getting in a room of someone with a whole different perspective than you have. And I assume that's what he's doing with Luke. He's just like he's a guy, he's 20 years younger than me or whatever, and he has a different perspective and he has fresh ideas. So and good for him. It sounds like they found like some magic there with if you consider the songs they're writing together, they're pretty good ones. According to Andrew, they wrote the song kind of toward the end of the pandemic a few years ago. Have you heard this?
Yeah, he talked about it a little bit at Atlanta.
He had this to say to Hashtag Magazine when the song dropped in July. He said, "There was this sense that we were all coming out of this strange moment collectively, and I wanted to write something that reflected that. There was this aching for normalcy, a humble kind of happiness where you could just be without confronting a 4 alarm fire every day. Years later, I think that sentiment still makes a lot of sense. For me, the magic of this song is in the visuals and the vignettes of everyday life in my weird little beach town and the return to a production style that includes super distorted guitars. There's something in the message of Happy and its lyrical and aesthetic ties to Southern California that always makes it feel like a something corporate song. I'm glad I held it back from the Wilderness record and that it ended up at home in the studio with Brian, Will, Josh, and Clutch." So kind of another nod back to his band, his former bandmates that he really wanted to do this song with. It is interesting to me again, calling it something corporate because, and some people might disagree, I don't know, but to you, does it sound like a something corporate song or does it matter to you? Does that matter?
I would say it leans maybe a little more towards wilderness because it's not as hard rock sounding.
Mm-hmm.
It has more synth and other sounds. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, but when something corporate performed it sounded more like a something corporate song when it was live to me.
You're right. I agree with you on that. And so I think it's a lot in the production and what I've really come to realize listening to the song more, a few times over these last few days is it's all in the production. It has modern production, which makes it sound like a modern song, whereas all those other something corporate songs were recorded 20 years ago, over 20 years ago now. And so it was a different time in a different studio with a different producer. Of course, it's going to sound more like the modern version of what Andrew does. And he has said in the past, I think someone asked him way before this something corporate thing even came up, would you ever make another something corporate song, another Jack's Mannequin song? So, and I'm paraphrasing. This was on Camp Wilderness, I believe. I write basically for the band I'm in at the time, so it's whatever band I'm doing at that time, and I write a song. That's what it's going to be. And so it makes perfect sense. Well, he's kind of doing both, so now the song is both. Let's talk about the sound of the song. So I'm sure you have some good input here. Being a musician yourself, I want to start with this though, Cindy. Do you play more than the violin? Do you play other instruments?
I play the violin well, and I can play many other instruments at varying levels.
Okay.
To become a music teacher, you have to learn everything. So I
Mm-hmm.
can play the viola well. And then from there, piano, okay-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really good at the recorder. Though I taught elementary music for
Oh
19
yeah,
years before this job, and I'm really good at the recorder.
I
But
bet.
and drumming. I did a lot of drumming and percussion when I taught elementary music. So, but as far as what I would perform for people, it's definitely the violin.
Okay. I think the production on the opening before the guitar riff and the drum beat drops, it definitely gives me a modern wilderness vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was alluding to earlier with the production. But once those guitars and this is kind of what you're getting to, the drums and guitars that come in, and I think we notice them more in the live version than in the recorded version. It turns into a bit of more of a rock song, right?
Yeah.
Especially toward the end of the first verse. And I think that may be what you were referring to earlier when you were talking about the construction of the cover that you did. You called it kind of chaotic, or I think
Yes.
so. Toward the end of the first verse, the crunchy guitar riffs as it leads into the chorus, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that part. I don't know. As someone who does play the piano and somebody who appreciates Andrew's music, is piano something you like listen for in the song?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I do. And it's in there. I mean, like we've
Yeah.
said, the live version, you definitely hear more of the piano, but it's
Mm-hmm.
in there, and I feel like it drives through with that little da 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 da, just keeps going through with the piano. So I like to listen for that.
I definitely noticed the piano more during the chorus. That's for sure. Andrew's music nowadays is a little bit more pop leaning, so I could say this song is too. But it definitely got some rock elements in it when you listen to when you're listening for those individual instruments like the crunchy guitars you mentioned and the drums. It's a little bit more noticeable than in some of the other world like Tilt at the Wind No More. Maybe I feel like this is more rock than some of those songs were, but I don't know if you noticed this or not. I don't always notice the bass guitar in the recordings of his songs. In fact, that I could say that for any artist. I have to really listen for it, but I feel like the bass was louder and more in your face at the concert in this song. Did you catch that or no? Or was that not
Yes,
something?
I did. It
Yeah.
definitely was driving the song a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think because of the lack of production, you called them special effects earlier. I always like that term when I'm talking about production on a song. Yeah, because the special effects weren't there, I think you noticed each individual instrument more, which I appreciated. So I mentioned earlier that so speaking of the sound of the song, I mentioned earlier that when I first heard it, I felt like it was an ironic kind of sounding song mood wise because it sounded sad, but he's talking about he wants to be happy. To you, what is the mood of this song?
I would say it's complicated. For me, aesthetically, when you first listen to it, for me at least, it sounds happy. It's in a major key. it's driving, and he's using the word happy a lot. Just a
Hmm.
first surface listen, I would say, yeah, it's happy, sure. But
Hmm.
then I feel like when you really listen to the lyrics, it's like, wait a minute, wait, it's I want to be happy. It's
Yeah.
not I am happy. The yellow colors that go along with it hint at happy as well.
Yeah.
The more I listen, I'm like, he wants to be happy. I'm not saying he's happy. I want to be happy. I want to lay down in the flowers with you. You make me happy. And I have heard he did release the piano only version that everyone could listen to. And I
Hmm.
did listen to that. So I know I'm not sure if that's the same as the Camp Wilderness one, but that
It's
one,
pretty close. Yeah. That's what it
okay.
sounded like.
Because that version to me sounded very melancholy
Yeah,
and
it is.
longing. And actually, interestingly, so okay, I love my job as a teacher and I love my kids, but this particular job is extremely busy and has a lot of after school stuff. And I have a commute, and my husband's job is incredibly busy too. And we both are like trying to make sure to deliberately seek out more than just work and do things that make us happy. And the other one, there was a day when he was talking about how he was so like down about having to just his work is just so crazy and mine too. And I quoted the song to him.
Hmm.
I was like, I just want to be happy. We're trying, but but it's never enough. I just want to be with you. And he was like, yeah, yeah.
Why do we as Andrew McMahon's do that? Andrew McMahon fans do that to our spouses. I literally quoted Constantine to my wife earlier, and it took her a second, and she was like, "Oh," like she knew because I probably listened to Constantine too much around the house apparently. But that's funny though.
I don't think he picked up on that yet, though.
No,
I mean, he's heard the music when I play it, but he's coming on
sure,
the cruise with me, so
yeah. Is there an artist that he's looking forward to hearing?
he's going with the flow. And I was
Yeah.
like, you could listen to this playlist and listen to this,
Hmm.
and he's like, yeah, I'll just go and
Hmm.
enjoy. I like music. I
Yeah.
mean, what convinced him for us to go to this cruise together was I showed him video from the New Friends tour because I went to that
Yeah.
and I was at the Barricade, which was incredible. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, Barricade is amazing. Anyway, I did take some videos and I was showing him, and we had some family over as well. And I was like, check this out, this was so cool. And I'd been mentioning the cruise, and he saw that and he goes, oh yeah, I'd enjoy that. Sure, let's go. So I think he's going to go with the flow and probably, hopefully, become a fan after
Yeah.
going.
If he doesn't become a full fan, I'm sure he will enjoy it because the energy is
Yeah.
kind of infectious. The positive
Oh,
energy.
totally. Yeah. Yeah.
I think Andrew has that impact on people.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to jump back to the lyrics for a second because
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you noticed this, but the final time he sings the chorus,
Hmm.
he changes something. And I heard he said this in an interview somewhere, I don't remember where, about how he likes to take the final chorus and do something a little different, like
Hmm.
sing the melody differently or change one word or something like that. And he does that in Happy. Instead of saying, I just want to be happy, happy, I'm trying, but it's never enough, he says, I'm trying, but I'm never enough.
Wow. I don't think I've noticed that, but it's
Yeah. And I
and I think
like,
my lyrics might be misprinted then because and that does happen by the way. I just
oh,
pull these
sure. Yeah.
offline and whatever website I'm getting them from. Interesting. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever noticed that before.
Yeah, if you go back and listen, and he did that live too, because I listened for that, and I'm like, am I making this up? And I'm like,
Hmm.
no, I'm he says trying, but I'm never enough. And when he did it live, he might have even pointed to himself when he said that, but it was interesting to me. I'm like, okay, trying, but it's never enough. Trying, but I'm never enough. And I thought, okay, there's that melancholy again of like,
Hmm.
am I enough? And I want to be happy. And it's just it to me it's like a little melancholy grown up turn, I guess. Like this isn't Happy by Farrell, right? Or whatever the guy's name who did the
Yeah.
Minion
Right.
song. That
Yeah.
one is like bop up and down. I'm happy, happy, happy. This one's like more complex. It's not the bright minion yellow. It's more of a darker mustard yellow, and as far as the colors, right?
Good point.
And I feel
Yeah.
like the lyrics are that way too, where there's a little more to that. And I don't know if this also connects to like One of Andrew's Instagram posts right before this song released, he had maybe just gone surfing or just come back
Hmm.
or was about to, and he talks about how he was feeling anxious and had some anxiety over releasing a new song, and it was this song that was about to come out, and how he has this like anxiety before putting it out there in the world. I just wanted to be like, hey, we're gonna, and actually I think I did comment, we're gonna love it no matter what, because it's you, like we love your music. And,
Uh-huh.
if people don't like it, of course that's okay. But just don't hate on him, you know what I
Right.
mean?
I'm sure it's got to be disheartening as an artist if you put out something and yeah, I've heard a lot of them say don't read the comments, but
Mm-hmm.
because some of that stuff does come up. But I saw people saying things like you did, and it might have even been your comment. I don't know. Like I definitely saw a comment like that, like, oh, we're gonna love it no matter what. Don't worry about it. And I mean, because if he is reading that stuff, they need to hear that hey, it's your art. You're putting things out into the world, and we love you as an artist, so we'll
Mm-hmm.
probably like it.
Yeah, and if we don't, it's nothing personal,
Right.
But I guess maybe this is a tangent a little bit, but so between that Instagram video and then when he right before he played it, they played it in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "We've got a new song, and whether you like it or not, you're going to pretend you like it." And that just breaks my heart a little bit. That like
Andrew said that in concert.
he did. I have a
That's kind of
video.
surprising. That's
I
kind of
took
surprising that he said
and
that.
I took video of all of Happy because I
Hmm.
wanted that for myself. I also did it for
Yeah.
Death Grip because anyway, but no, he says that. He says, if you don't like it, just pretend you like it because it's a new song and it will make us happy. And I love that way he said it. But it also broke my heart. I'm like, I've seen some comments because I read the comments not about myself because I won't, that's like scary. I read some of the comments about how some people, don't like it. And they're like, well, if it's something corporate song, it needs to sound like something corporate.
Right. That's the kind of stuff I was referring to earlier. I have seen that
Exactly. And
too.
I mean, okay, here's my take on it. So as a I don't know, I'm not really any authority on any of this, but as a musician, first of all, you put your heart and your soul on the line, especially when you're composing and creating something original. That's like, and especially Andrew, I feel like he puts his soul and his actual life in his music. And so I feel like
Hmm.
we should treat that as a gift. And it's okay. Again, it's not okay. It's okay to not like it, but to just
Yeah.
be like, just don't say anything if you don't like it,
Yeah. Just respect the art, respect the artist,
Exactly.
and if you
And
don't like it,
also,
listen to other songs.
yeah, okay, if you don't like it, go back and listen to the something corporate songs. Like if that's what you want to hear, then
Yeah.
listen to it. And then my other
Yeah.
thing too is he's 20 plus years older now.
Right. This is the music he's making now.
He's not a 20-year-old angst-filled young adult who's just figuring things out and just has all this energy and all this rage and whatever crazy energy you have when you're 20 years old. He's 41 or 42, however old he is, and has I mean, I'm the same age. Like, I
Hmm.
get it that I'm not the same person I was back then. So my whatever I'm creating now is not the same. I'm not the same teacher I was when I started. So I feel like it's a little unrealistic for people to expect his music to be exactly the same.
And go back and write like a pop punk jam that sounds like it was written in 2001. It's just, I mean,
Exactly. And like he
yeah.
has a family now and he's been through cancer and he's been through a lot of stuff. So his perspective's different. And
Hmm.
I mean, I think it's really cool that he went back and they're touring something corporate. Like that's super cool and nostalgic and amazing. But I mean, I think he's even said this. He's not in that headspace anymore.
To put a bow on the topic of whether it's a something corporate song or not, it's written by the guy who wrote something corporate songs, one of them,
Mhm.
and it's performed by the guys in something corporate. Therefore, it's a something corporate song.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is an interesting lyrical song. I love the choruses, by the way, and you've quoted a little bit already. The verses are so different to me. You mentioned one of the lines earlier. It always throws me off every single time I hear the song. I feel like it's kind of a serious song. And then I hear, and a blow up doll named Sue, or my neighbors have a blow up doll named Sue, whatever he says. And I'm like, where is this coming from? How does this fit? And I'll come back to that point. Basically, I think the verses are more like a story, kind of like setting the stage, setting the scene, and the chorus is like the overall feeling. That's how I interpret this song. Yeah, it sounds like he's starting a story in that first verse, and then he continues in the second verse when that comes up. But my neighbor's got a blow up doll. I think he named her Sue is the actual quote. So I don't know what do you make of these lyrics? I'm not asking you to like tell me what they mean, but like how do you feel about the lyrics overall?
I think they're fun. They're so
Hmm.
specific.
They are.
And that's one thing I love about Andrew's music is it's like, oh, his daughter's named Cecilia. Oh, this isn't just some random name he picked. Or like
Hmm.
here he's talking about his town. And I mean this blow up doll named Sue, I wonder if there's a story behind that.
Yeah, there's got to be, right? I mean, where did that come from? I don't think he was just rhyming something really random.
Yeah.
Although I don't know, when he talked about babies of the '80s in an interview a couple months back, he did say something that I just thought of when I was reading that line. He said, "When I was in high school, I used to write lyrics just to make my friends laugh, because like just to entertain people, and that's where something like Babies of the '80s comes from." And it's like, wait a second, is that where is he trying to get back to that headspace where he's just like joking with the guys, and he's like, he wrote that, and they all start cracking up, and he's like, I'm leaving it.
That could be. That would be really interesting. If I run into Andrew at the cruise, I might ask him about that.
But yeah, that's one of those that's just like one of those weird random things that, yeah, you're kind of curious about, right? But
Mhm.
some of the stuff, though, to be fair, is, I don't know, relationships were weird during the pandemic, right? Like we all had to kind of close ourselves off to a degree. I was reminded just the other day, I got two new neighbors. I knew the one, my next door neighbor, had moved in the summer of 2020. I'd forgotten that the people across the street. I was talking to them recently. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we moved in summer of 2020." I'm like, "Oh, that's so weird. That's probably why we never talked, because we weren't really interacting much with especially new people in the summer of 2020." So maybe it has to do with that, because if you look at the rest of the lyrics of verse 2, he kind of makes references to some of that weirdness going on in the pandemic. Yeah, I can't interpret all of this, but there's a protest at the pier. We knew there was a lot of that going on in 2020. I bet it makes the evening news. And then he kind of like gives this like this, I don't know what you'd call it, this, yeah, I guess I care, but I'm not there, like as in like whatever, man, kind of like attitude. Because all I want to do is I want to be happy. I think that part of it we could all identify with at that point in time. It's like, what do I got to do here to be happy? It's like I said, the dynamics among people were the people you knew and the people you didn't know, and the people you didn't know anymore, was so weird at that time. And we were all trying to like figure that out. And 4 years later, we get a song about what that felt like toward the end of the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely like. I love the chorus, which is very different from the verses. I love the way he sings this. I'm not going to sing it. I'm just going to read it. But I want to see birds sing in my windows, make some friends, and take them home. Lay down in the flowers with you, 'cause you make me happy. I love the way he sings that part. It just, like a lot of people in the world, I'm sure, when I'm in my car and I'm singing this, I'm just like the best singer in the world, right? Like
Yep.
I'm just belting out this song because no one else can hear me. And that's the part I really belt out at the top of my lungs when that part comes on. It's just so simple, but it feels so good to sing those lyrics.
I've been singing it in my car on a regular basis
Yeah.
too. You're like you said, it feels good to sing, and I love the way he sings it.
His voice like raises a pitch. I don't know. I don't know musical
Might be
terminology much,
singing
but
in falsetto,
yeah.
maybe, but it's higher. Like when I was playing it,
Hmm.
that's those are the highest pitches. Is that section of the chorus?
I showed my younger daughter while we were waiting for my other daughter had a choir concert today, and my younger daughter and I were standing there, and I said, "Hey, the person I'm talking to tonight made a recording of the song Happy by Andrew McMahon." She's like, "Oh, I don't know that song." And I'm like, "That's okay. Like watch. This is cool." Like she plays it on a violin, and she was like, "Oh yeah, okay." But yeah, that was her initial response. Like, I don't know that song. She's 11.
That's
You
understandable.
teach 11-year-olds, you know.
Oh, I know. Yes, yes. They're just like, yeah, yeah, whatever. I'm like, no, I spent a
Yeah,
lot of time on this. You should watch
yeah.
this. And they're like,
So
yeah.
did you show your students your video?
I'm going to. So, okay,
Hmm.
here's the plan. It's going to fit in my lesson plans. So our high schoolers, we're going to do a special small ensemble concert for Christmas
Hmm.
or holidays, I should say. We're calling it dessert ensemble. But anyway, we're having the kids go in small groups and arrange music. And so my plan is actually this week that we're going to use this video as a way of adding spice, like different things,
Hmm.
rather than just playing a song straight through. So that's the plan, is to show it to them, because I've wanted to, and then we've just had a lot of things going on. And this way, it actually connects directly to what we're doing instead of being like, "Look what we made." But
Yeah.
they appreciate that as well.
It is very cool, though, that they can look at their teacher and say, oh, my teacher not only teaches us about music, but makes music in her spare time for fun.
Oh, for sure. And I'm a firm believer in that as a teacher myself, that I'm a musician first.
Hmm.
And so I'm wanting to share that love of music with them, and say like, hey, I do this too, and this brings me joy and it's fun. And here's also showing them a higher level of, because Georgia's my co-teacher that plays the cello in the video. We both are active musicians and play in a symphony. We had a concert last night. So
Amazing.
yeah. And I'll throw this out there, the COVID connection
Uh-huh.
with this song. So, all right, during the pandemic, one of my projects was making videos like this. I know I have them on Facebook, like on my personal Facebook, and maybe I should start a YouTube channel. I don't know. I just started making music videos and sharing
Hmm.
them with people. And I use this app called Acapella where you can record multiple versions of yourself.
Oh, yeah. I have a friend, Dan, who does that, who's in a band. And kind of like you're in an orchestra, he's in a band and I can't remember what he plays, but he's done that. He'll do like a happy birthday for people and he'll be
Mhm.
in like four screens, right? Is that how it
Yep.
looks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes. And so I made a whole bunch of those videos and did like some Lindsey Sterling arrangements, which
Wow.
Lindsey Sterling, do you know who she is?
Oh, yeah.
She did
You
a
know she
song
did a
with
song with
Andrew.
Andrew. Okay.
Yes, she
Okay.
did. I actually have the music for that, and I mess around with it
Oh, I
sometimes
love
because
that
it's
song.
just
I got to cover
I'm
that one day.
oh, and I'm trying to convince our choir director at our high school to do it with her high school choir so I can play the violin solo. We'll see. But anyway, I made a whole bunch of those videos with a lot of Lindsey Sterling arrangements where I have the music and then I would play the track in the
Hmm.
background, or me, just my own arrangements of stuff.
Hmm.
And I even did one, the maximum number of windows I did was, I think, 9 versions of me playing canon and D with recorders and violin and all kinds of things. So that there, I guess there's a connection there with my video and the song and pandemic.
So you have done stuff like this before. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
So Happy wasn't your first time through arranging someone else's music and then like recording it for other people to watch.
Yeah, yeah, I've done it. It was kind of a little COVID project, and
Was it for fun or what?
it was for fun, just
Just
for
for fun.
fun.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, I guess it's like I get this inspiration to be like, I just want to do this, and that's how it
Hmm.
was with Happy, and it was with my favorite one I did was a Lindsey Sterling arrangement of the Nutcracker, Sugar Plum Fairy, Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, but I didn't just play it. Like I actually did, where I played it, and then on the second screen, I made a whole like photo story of some little characters like climbing up a Christmas tree. Like I had a Pikachu and a little angel doll, and like it was goofy, and it was just funny, but it was a story of like these friends decorating a Christmas tree. And I made it for my students, and then I included outtakes afterward, and my students have said that's their favorite video I've
Oh,
made
of
because I
course.
talk about the background of things falling down, and I'm wearing like fancy clothes on top and running leggings on the bottom because it's COVID and all that.
Yep, that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool that you've put together these videos and shared that passion with your students too. That's a lot of fun. It sounds like you have some creative outlets there.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the music video. Did you have a chance to watch the music video for this song? Oh, you said
Yes,
that,
I
yeah, somebody
have.
posted on Facebook. You saw that, right? Okay.
Yes, and then I sought it out when it came out.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's fun visually and happy, and And actually, now that I think about it, it almost a little bit mimics some of the effects, visual effects that they did on the Out of Office tour. Now that I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it, of like splitting the screen and Andrew, like he would,
Yeah, that was
like
funny.
half his face is over here and half over there. They had a little bit of that in the video, didn't they?
They did, yeah. There was a little bit of it. It was kind of twisted. It was kind of they had him kind of spinning around like a kaleidoscope. The band members and Andrew himself. It reminded me of like some of the early music videos. When I say early, I mean like when MTV first came out in the '80s. And if you go back and watch some of those videos, it was like colorful and they're utilizing like green screen special effects and kind of like the way you're describing it. Some of those more those basic special effects, but look really cool. But now it's like the modern version, so it looked really good. But there's a couple of things that kind of hit me, like those like late '70s, early '80s music videos that you can go find. And I like that. I don't know if that's what they were going for, but it's a fun video. Even like when the band is standing and it's like kind of colorful lights on them, and they're kind of like doing this wave with
Yeah,
their hands.
yeah,
It was like, is this like some '70s vibe or something? Like this hip. I think it was the hippie sort of mention in the song. They were kind of referencing that maybe. That was just my interpretation.
yeah. And actually, the colors are that mustardy yellow.
Hmm.
And it didn't. I think feel like Andrew had corduroy on.
I think you're right. Yeah. So that's probably part of it. I think it was his outfit
Mhm.
was what kind of put me in that headspace as well.
I just thought it was just fun.
It was a fun video, and I don't know if I can say it's my favorite video of his recently because I loved the Death Grip video too. I loved that a lot for a whole different reason. But it's a really good video. It was directed by Jennifer Pearl, who I looked her up just because I'm always curious, like, oh, what else have they done? I think she's only done two other music videos ever. So, I don't know if it's like a friend of theirs or just someone who is trying her hand at music videos, but whatever it was, she did a really good job. I really liked it. I mean, you can tell it was all done in a studio, but it worked for what it is. It was pretty dynamic in the different things that they showed, and very different from the Death Grip video, in a good way, I would say.
Yeah.
To kind of wrap up here, interestingly, when Andrew released "Tilt to the Wind No More," and we've talked a little bit about this already, he mentioned in interviews for that album that he didn't want to make a pandemic record. So now years later, we're getting the song that he wrote during the pandemic, or one of them. Did you ever hear New Year's Song?
Yes.
Very different vibe on that one. That one's is
Yeah.
more kind of melancholy, right? I
Yes.
love that song. That's one of my favorite modern Andrew songs. That just
Oh,
hits.
I didn't realize that was a COVID song because I discovered him after COVID.
Yeah, he dropped that. I think I'm not positive. It was New Year's 20 into 21 or 21 into 22. I can't remember. Probably 20 into 21 makes sense. But it released on New Year's at midnight. And I know that because my kids were awake, and my wife actually started playing the song right at midnight for all of us.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. I played it for my friends last year. I was staying with some friends in Florida and I
Hmm.
played it on New Year's
Hmm.
for them.
So I understand his position on not wanting to make a quote unquote COVID album or pandemic album, but he's got a couple songs that kind of reference the times, and we need that because we all lived it, right? I mean, it's part of
Yeah.
his life. So it sounds like you really like the song "Happy." Is this the type of song you want to hear from Andrew? Like when if you heard that a new song was coming out next week, next month, next year, like is this the kind of music you want to hear from him?
I want to hear whatever he wants to put out.
Oh, that's fair.
I just think what's unique about him is that he reflects on what's going on now or,
Hmm.
what's immediately around him, but takes it deeper. So I don't have expectations of like it needs to sound a certain way.
Hmm.
I just appreciate his artistry and I just think whatever he wants to release, I'm happy. And there are songs that I like more than others too. So I'm
Sure.
not saying that I love
Oh yeah.
every single song he's done, but I just think that whatever he wants to put out there is what we're going to hear and what we should hear.
Hmm. That's an awesome way to think about it. I like
But what
that.
about you? What do you think?
As I kind of alluded to earlier, if not said outright, I think it fits very well in the Andrew Man in the Wilderness time frame. It makes sense, and I do like this song, and I like that it has the melancholy that we've talked about, but also it's kind of like fun and gets you in a good mood. So it has those dynamics, like some other songs I've mentioned earlier, like off of Zombies on Broadway and Tilt to the Wind No More. I feel like it fits into that vibe very well. where it's like there's happy pieces to it, but also kind of melancholy in the lyrics at times. And so you kind of get both sides of it. You get those feelings. So I enjoy that side of Andrew. I like songs like Happy. I think it was a great song. And I'm really glad you brought it to the podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me, Cindy.
Thanks for having me. I just wanted to say, like, one thing that was so cool about making this video with my friend Georgia is that we have that musical chemistry where we were like bouncing ideas off each other and we respect each other's ideas, and that but we can also be like, let's try it this way. Like be able to respect each other and also not insist on it being just my way.
Mm-hmm.
And playing off of each other. Like even when we play, there are things that I can't really I can kind of describe it, that we'll just play and she'll do something a certain way and I will echo it. Like maybe the way she accented a certain note, and I hear that and I go, oh, I'm gonna join her on there. I'm gonna echo that later. But it's things that it's chemistry, kind of like with someone that you love, like your spouse or your kids or a good friend, where you get together and things flow and it feels right, and it's just this other energy. It's like almost like a third part. I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but the one reason why I feel like this video turned out what I feel like it turned out well. It wasn't perfect. It had a good vibe, was because we had that musical chemistry. And I feel like seeing something corporate live, it's like that band and all of his bands, actually, they all have that musical chemistry. You can see it when they perform on stage, especially when you see them live. You're like, obviously they're having fun. And I just appreciate that so much, that after all of these years, they're back together 20 plus years later, and they still have that really cool chemistry together, and they're making music and it sounds so good. And I just wanted to point that out and say that how much I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I love watching the band members smile and kind of look at each other while they're playing or getting ready to play a song, or like kind of at a point where they're kind of maybe not smiling, but like looking at each other for the next signal. Like it's like they're communicating non-verbally, not only with their eyes, but also through their instruments. So yeah. I love seeing that when you get to notice that kind of thing, and that is an advantage of being up on Barricade. I completely agree with you. You see some of those little nuances, some of those little details that you may not have noticed from the back of the hall or the balcony. I've enjoyed taking in all the different angles of an Andrew show. I've seen him from the back, I've seen him from above, I've seen him from Barricade now, most recently, and yeah, I love seeing that chemistry. It's like you can almost feel it, between them.
Yeah, for sure.
That's so awesome that you and your friend and coworker have that and are able to have that relationship, that little bit of give, a little bit of take, to know what feels right, what worked for that song. So hopefully you guys will be able to do something like that again. That looked like a lot of fun, and that's what's important, right? Is having fun with it.
Exactly. I actually do have another song. I was like, I think we should do Fall. I could hear the cello doing that guitar line. And I was like, Georgia. And we've both been really busy, so I'm like, it might be a few months. But if I do, I'll post it on Instagram again.
Definitely, yeah. Post it and just, I guess, just when you hashtag Andrew and something corporate, it'll be more likely to come up on my list. So, but I would love to see that if you end up doing that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I want to thank you for joining the show. It's been a lot of fun. I liked hearing about the making of the Happy cover with your violin and your friend's cello, and if you end up doing more, I'd love to see it. As always, everybody who's listening, email me at somethinginthewilderness@gmail.com if like Cindy, you want to join the show and tell me about a song that you love, or you can DM me on Instagram as always. But for now, I want to see birds sing in my windows, make some friends, and take them home.